The rain had started without warning, thin at first, then heavy enough to blur the city into streaks of gray when he noticed her. She was sitting alone on the cold metal bench at the far end of the bus stop, soaked, unmoving, her small hands folded tightly in her lap as if she were holding herself together by sheer will. People rushed past with umbrellas and phones pressed to their ears, but no one looked twice at the blind girl who had been left behind like an unwanted package. For a moment, even he almost kept walking, until something about the stillness of her pain stopped his breath. Before the story goes any further, if you believe that kindness still matters in a world that moves too fast to notice suffering, please take a second to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more stories about second chances and unexpected miracles. Arman Malik was a single father who had learned to survive on routine. Wake before sunrise, prepare breakfast, pack school lunches, rush to work, rush back home, help with homework, fall asleep exhausted. Ever since his wife died 3 years ago, life had become a narrow road with no room for mistakes. He worked 2 jobs, one as a delivery driver during the day, another at a warehouse at night because his 7-year-old son needed stability more than anything else. Arman had trained himself not to notice pain outside his own home, not because he didn't care, but because caring too much felt like a luxury he could no longer afford. That evening, he was already late. His son was waiting at home with a neighbor, and the buses were delayed because of the storm. Arman stood under the flickering shelter light, shaking rain from his jacket, when he saw her again. The girl couldn't have been more than 16 or 17. Her clothes were thin and worn, a faded sweater hanging loose on her small frame. Her eyes stared forward but never focused, glassy and distant. And that was when he realized she was blind. There was a small backpack at her feet, soaked through, the zipper broken, everything inside likely ruined. At first, Arman assumed someone would come back for her. Maybe a parent had gone to get help. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. But minutes passed. Buses arrived and left. The rain kept falling. The girl never moved. She didn't check the road. She didn't stand when buses came. She just sat there shivering, as if waiting for a promise that had already been broken. Arman felt a familiar tightening in his chest, the same feeling he used to get when his wife was sick, and he pretended everything was fine. He told himself it wasn't his responsibility. He told himself he couldn't afford to be late again. But then the girl reached out blindly, her hand hovering in the air, searching for something or someone that wasn't there. That single, helpless gesture shattered his resolve. He approached slowly, unsure of what to say or do, aware of how easily fear could replace hope for someone who couldn't see. He gently asked if she was okay, if she was waiting for someone. Her head turned toward the sound of his voice, and for a moment, he saw relief wash over her face, followed almost immediately by shame. She nodded, then shook her head, as if unsure which answer was safer. What little she shared came in broken pieces. Her name was Isha. She had been traveling with an uncle who promised to take her to a school for the blind in the city. Her parents were gone, she said, her voice flat with practiced numbness. Somewhere between one bus and the next, he had told her to wait while he went to get tickets. He never came back. She had been sitting there for hours, listening to footsteps fade, buses roar away, rain soak into her bones, slowly realizing the truth she didn't want to accept. Arman felt anger rise in him, hot and uncontrollable, not the loud kind, but the quiet fury that settles deep and refuses to leave. He thought of his son, small, hands gripping his shirt whenever he felt scared, trusting him completely. The idea of abandoning a child, especially one who couldn't even see the world she was being left in, made his stomach churn. Still, fear followed close behind his compassion. He had no money to spare, no time to lose, no plan for what came next. He didn't even know where he would take her. But when the last bus of the night pulled away and the shelter lights dimmed, leaving the stop wrapped in shadows, Arman knew there was no turning back. He couldn't leave her there. Not tonight, not ever. He took off his jacket and placed it around her shoulders, feeling how thin she was beneath the fabric. He helped her stand, careful and slow, guiding her step by step to his car parked across the street. The entire time his mind raced with consequences, questions without answers. What if this caused trouble? What if he couldn't help her? What if he failed her the way everyone else already had? At home, his son stared wide-eyed as Arman ushered the girl inside. The small apartment felt suddenly crowded, unfamiliar, but also warmer than it had in years. Arman made soup from whatever he could find, set her near the heater, gave her dry clothes that belonged to his late wife. Watching Isha eat, carefully, gratefully, as if every bite mattered, something inside him cracked open. This wasn't charity. This was survival. Hers, and somehow his too. Over the next few days, Arman learned the truth piece by piece, and each revelation hit harder than the last. Isha had not been abandoned by an uncle at all. The man had been a distant relative who agreed to take her only because he was paid to. Her parents had died when she was younger, leaving her in the care of people who saw her blindness as a burden. The promise of a school had been a lie meant to erase responsibility. When money ran out, so did compassion. What stunned Arman most wasn't just the cruelty of it, it was Isha's resilience. Despite everything, she apologized. Constantly, for taking up space, for needing help, for existing. She navigated the apartment by memory within days, learned the sounds of the neighborhood, laughed softly at his son's jokes, even when she didn't fully understand them. She carried her pain quietly, as if she believed suffering was her default state. Arman struggled too. Bills piled up, sleep became rare. Social workers asked questions he didn't know how to answer. The fear of losing everything he had built for his son hovered over him like a storm cloud. There were nights he sat alone after everyone was asleep, head in his hands, wondering if kindness had finally cost him more than he could pay. But there were changes too small, almost invisible ones. His son became more patient, more thoughtful. The apartment filled with a gentler kind of silence, one that felt less lonely. Arman himself felt something he hadn't felt since his wife passed away, purpose beyond survival. Helping Isha learn roots, find resources, enroll in a local center for the visually impaired, it all reminded him that life didn't end with loss. Sometimes it began again in unexpected forms. Weeks later, the final truth came out during a meeting with a counselor. The school Isha was supposed to attend did exist. Her parents had saved for it for years before they died. The money was stolen by relatives who promised to help her get there. Everything she lost had been taken long before the bus stop. That bench was just the last chapter of a long betrayal. Arman left that office shaken, stunned by how much cruelty could hide behind familiar faces. But as he watched Isha walk beside him, confident now, cane tapping steadily, he also saw something else. Strength, growth, a future that refused to be erased. Near the end of this story, if what you've heard so far has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who need to believe that goodness still exists. Months passed. Life didn't magically become easy, but it became meaningful. Isha officially moved in under guardianship. She enrolled in school. Arman adjusted his work hours. The apartment filled with laughter and arguments and normalcy. The bus stop where it all began faded into memory, but the lesson remained etched into Arman's soul. Sometimes, the smallest decision, to stop, to look, to care, can rewrite lives. Just before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that represents what this story made you feel: hope, kindness, pain, or love. Your words matter more than you know. On a quiet evening, long after the rain had stopped, Arman stood by the window watching his children because that's what they were now doing, homework together. He thought about the man he used to be, the one who walked fast and looked down, afraid of getting involved. He realized that the truth that stunned him wasn't just about a blind girl abandoned at a bus stop. It was about how close he had come to abandoning his own humanity. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that compassion can still change the world one choice at a time, please engage with this video from your heart. Somewhere out there, someone is sitting alone, unseen, waiting for a moment of kindness. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one who stops.